They didn't ask us to evacuate. They didn't say anything. Suddenly, we heard the airstrike and we ran to the building and found it had completely collapsed. Around 75,000 people in Gaza have already been displaced, according to the UN Relief and Works Agency, which deals with Palestinian refugees. In this cramped strip of land along the Mediterranean, 2 million Palestinians are now in the crosshairs of an enemy bent on revenge for Hamas's surprise attack, which left hundreds of Israelis dead and thousands wounded, and dozens now in Hamas captivity. By evening, the death toll in Gaza was approaching 700, with almost 4,000 wounded, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
Monday evening, the spokesman for Hamas issued a grim warning. They'll start executing their civilian hostages and broadcasting those executions if Israel targets people in Gaza without warning. Gaza and Israel have gone to war many times before since Hamas took control. This will not be yet another brief outbreak of attack and counterattack before a return to the status quo. Israel is massing troops and armor on the outskirts of Gaza, preparing in all likelihood for a ground invasion on a scale not seen before. And now Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, has ordered what he called a complete siege of Gaza, cutting off all food, fuel, and electricity. That in a place where, according to the World Food Program, 63% of the population was food insecure before this war began. So much has happened since Saturday morning in Israel and Gaza, and it's only the beginning. Ben Williams, CNN, Jerusalem.
We want to get the very latest information now from the Israel Defense Forces, and joining me now from Tel Aviv is IDF spokesperson Major Libby Weiss. Thank you so much for talking with us.
Thank you for having me.
So it has been 3 days since the terror attacks began. What is the latest on the airstrikes and, of course, returning rocket fire? And are there any remaining breaches along the border?
Well, as you mentioned, we are now in the third day of this national tragedy following the Hamas massacre on Saturday morning. The situation is a very dynamic one that is changing constantly. We right now are at more than 900 Israeli casualties from the attack on Saturday, thousands of injured, and of course the dozens of hostages who were kidnapped into the Gaza Strip. The situation along the border with Gaza in those civilian communities appears to be more controlled than in previous days. But of course, the IDF is working constantly to make sure that there are no Hamas terrorists still operating within Israeli territory.
And of course, Israel faces a hostage crisis right now, doesn't it? With the public calling on the government to get those hostages safely returned home. But how can that happen if Israel is ordering a complete siege of Gaza while Hamas threatens to kill the hostages if Israel continues to bombard the Palestinian territory without warning? How can you reconcile that?
Well, first and foremost, everyone in this country, military, non-military, we are all devastated by this hostage situation. Our thoughts are with the families and with the innocent civilians who were kidnapped and who knows what is happening to them right now in Gaza. And we are thinking about them constantly. The situation is a very, very complex one. But the IDF strikes are on Hamas military targets. That is the purpose of those strikes. The situation is a complex one, much because of what Hamas has done in the Gaza Strip over the last decade and what they continue to do. But the situation is certainly a very, very challenging one. And our focus and thoughts are always with those hostages, with those civilians, children, women, the elderly, people who have nothing to do with this kind of conflict. And our thoughts are with them constantly.
The IDF's mission is to ensure Hamas has no military capabilities at the end of this war. So again, what does that potentially mean for hostages?
again, these are issues that we are all dealing with right now, and of course having to balance in our approach. But I think it makes a lot of sense and seems reasonable, in fact, that by the end of this, Hamas will have no military capability. This is not a reality in which we can live with. I would not be able to imagine that anywhere, any in the world, would be able to live with this kind of reality. Hamas is a terror organization that committed a massacre of historic proportions against Israeli civilians. And of course, as the military, our responsibility is to make sure that this never happens again.
We are learning that an IDF officer died after being injured near Israel's northern border with Lebanon after an encounter with militants who apparently entered Israel from the north. That is a big concern. If this perhaps indicates Hezbollah may be planning to join the fight, what can you tell us about that incident?
Well, of course, we've been monitoring the situation along our northern border very, very closely. We do understand that there was infiltration by members of the terror organization, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, into Israel. We are monitoring that situation very, very closely. And again, we send a clear message to any other terror organization, and certainly to the states that harbor them and support them, to not engage in this conflict, to not test us at this time. And we are monitoring that situation very, very closely at this time.
IDF spokesperson Major Libby Weiss in Tel Aviv, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey y'all. Good morning. Cheers. So what do you think about this bullshit? It angers me. It really fucking angers me. What they just showed on TV was not a bunch of terrorists that were in the street bleeding. It was regular, everyday people. So with this, I don't remember what she was.
Colonel.
Colonel?
Yeah.
What this colonel was saying is a bunch of shit. I don't believe it for a fucking minute. There was children standing there. And this woman has the gall to look in that motherfucking camera and say that everything that was hit was
military target.
Was a Hamas target, and that was a huge fucking lie.
We're just carrying a little baby.
Oh my god. Oh yeah. It was all fucking Hamas. Yeah. Carrying little fucking babies. Alright, y'all. Let's do another hit and then I gotta go to bed. Before I punch his fucking... He would fucking kill me if I fucked up his TV, but cheers. This is the last thing I'm going to say about this. Mr. Netanyahu, you want to talk about the Hamas and all this, but you know what you're doing? With the government shit, whatever that was, that you fucking took over, and you doing all this bullshit, people where you're supposed to be leading, they're all saying they want peace. The people on the other side all say they want peace. You, Mr. Netanyahu, are a fucking terrorist and should be treated as such. That's my last message. Be respectful and peaceful, y'all. especially to your family, especially to your parents. See ya.